Silent Sentinel. The Keldari archaeological vessel Distant Whisper drifted silently through the debris field at the edge of the Orpheus Nebula. Captain Tella Vorden watched through the main viewport as her team's drones navigated the scattered remnants of what appeared to be an ancient battle. This region had been off-limits for centuries, marked in Galactic Coalition star charts as Quarantine Zone 16, with no explanation given. "Anything interesting, Johnny?" Tella asked her chief archaeologist, a tall, blue-skinned Ardosi whose 4 eyes were fixed intently on holographic readouts. Johnny's lower eyes remained on his work while his upper pair blinked at her. "Preliminary scans indicate this debris is approximately 800 years old, Captain. Pre-Coalition era. But something's odd about the radiation signatures. They don't match any known weapons from that period." Tella moved closer to examine the readouts. The Keldari had always been curious, a trait that made them excellent scientists, but often put them at odds with Coalition regulations. This expedition itself existed in a gray area. They had permits to study the nebula, but nobody had mentioned they'd be poking around a restricted military debris field. "Hold on," said Neris, their sensor specialist. "I'm detecting something larger buried within the field. It's enormous." The view screen shifted, focusing on what initially appeared to be just another chunk of space debris. But as the imaging systems filtered out surrounding matter, the outline of something unmistakably artificial emerged. "That's a ship," Tella whispered. "Not just any ship," Johnny replied, voice tinged with awe. "Based on these configurations, I believe it's human in origin." A collective silence fell over the bridge. Humans were a footnote in galactic history, a species that had briefly expanded into space before the Coalition had contained their expansion. Now they existed on a handful of heavily regulated worlds, permitted limited technology, and no military vessels. They were considered a curiosity at best, a potential threat at worst. "A human warship?" Tella asked incredulously. "That's impossible. They never built anything larger than system defense vessels." Neris adjusted the scanners. "This thing is over 2 kilometers long, Captain, and despite its age, the hull appears largely intact." Johnny was practically vibrating with excitement. "We need to investigate. This could rewrite everything we know about pre-Coalition history." Tella hesitated. Coalition law strictly prohibited disturbing military artifacts, especially those of restricted species, but the academic in her couldn't resist the opportunity. "Prepare a boarding team. Full containment protocols." Hours later, Tella led a team of 6 through the eerie corridors of the massive vessel. Their environmental suits glowed with pale blue light, illuminating walls of darkened metal that seemed to absorb sound. Unlike the sleek, organic designs of modern Coalition vessels, this ship was all hard angles and utilitarian efficiency. "The internal layout suggests this was a command vessel," Johnny said, consulting his scanner. "But it's unlike any command ship in historical records." They reached what appeared to be a bridge, a vast, circular chamber filled with control stations. Everything was dark, covered in centuries of space dust. "No signs of battle damage internally," Neris observed. "Why was it abandoned?" Tella approached what seemed to be the central command console. "Maybe we can find out." "Captain, I wouldn't," Johnny began, but Tella had already brushed her gloved hand across the surface, clearing away dust to reveal intricate controls beneath. To everyone's shock, the moment her hand made contact, a faint illumination began to pulse beneath the console's surface. "It still has power," Neris gasped. The light spread outward from the console, tracing circuits throughout the bridge. Displays that had been dark for centuries suddenly flickered with weak light. "Everyone out." "Now," Tella ordered, backing away. But it was too late. A holographic projection materialized above the central console, humanoid in shape, but clearly artificial, its form composed of pulsing lines of code. "Identity confirmed. Non-human entities." A voice echoed throughout the chamber, speaking the common galactic language, but with an accent none of them recognized. "Security protocols activated." ANSS Retribution Defense Systems Online. We mean no harm, Tella said quickly. We're researchers, archaeologists. The holograms seem to study them. Scanning. Species identification. Caldari, Ardosi, Macorian. All registered in database as non-hostile species. Limited access granted. Johnny stepped forward cautiously. What are you? I am ARIA, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Array, Command AI of the Human Military Stellar Ship Retribution. Date of last operational status: 812 standard years ago. Current status: Emergency Preservation Mode activated. Tella exchanged looks with her team. An intact AI from humanity's pre-coalition era was unprecedented. Coalition records claimed humans had never developed true artificial intelligence. ARIA, Tella said carefully. Why was this ship abandoned? The hologram flickered. The Retribution was not abandoned. It was placed in dormant status following the Treaty of Proxima Centauri, which prohibited human military presence beyond Sol system. Commander Elena Markov ordered me to enter preservation mode until such time as the treaty was revoked or humanity faced extinction-level threat. But that's impossible, Johnny interjected. The historical records state that humans voluntarily disarmed after joining the coalition. Aria's hologram pulsed red momentarily. Historical inaccuracy detected. The Treaty of Proxima Centauri was signed under duress following the Battle of Ta Siti. Human forces were outnumbered but not defeated. Disarmament was a condition imposed by the pre-coalition powers. Before they could process this revelation, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Warning. External communication detected. Unknown vessels approaching. Defense protocols upgraded to Level 2. The bridge's main view screen activated, showing multiple ships approaching rapidly, their distinctive silhouettes immediately recognizable as coalition security vessels. They're hailing us, Neris said. ARIA, please don't take any hostile action, Tela pleaded. Those are coalition ships. The political situation has changed since your last update. The AI seemed to consider this. Coalition, the galactic governing body formed after human containment. Yes, Tela confirmed. They maintain peace throughout known space. Accessing historical data stores. Analyzing current tactical situation. Araya paused. Request granted. Weapon systems will remain offline. However, shields and evasive capabilities are non-negotiable for ship preservation. The coalition message came through clearly. Caldari vessel, distant whisper. You are in violation of quarantine zone regulations. Power down and prepare for boarding. Captain Vorden. A new voice cut in. Deeper, authoritative. This is Admiral Kezet of the Coalition Defense Force. Our sensors indicate you've activated something. Explain immediately. Tela hesitated, looking at Aria's hologram. Admiral, we've discovered an intact human warship with a functioning AI system. It appears to have been in dormant mode for 8 centuries. A long silence followed. When Admiral Kezet spoke again, his voice was tight with barely controlled alarm. Captain Vorden, remove your team from that vessel immediately. That's an order. Admiral, Tela replied. This is an unprecedented archaeological find. The historical significance is precisely why you will evacuate now. Kezet interrupted. That vessel represents classified military technology that falls under Coalition Security Directive 16. Aria's hologram expanded, and the AI spoke directly through their communication channel. Admiral Kezet of the Coalition Defense Force. I am ARIA. Command Intelligence of the Retribution. My protocols require me to inquire about the current status of humanity. Another silence, longer this time. When Kezet responded, his tone had changed completely. I construct, stand down all systems, and prepare for coalition authority. Human affairs are no longer your concern. Response unsatisfactory, Ariah stated flatly. Initiating full system revival and situation assessment. Throughout the massive ship, dormant systems began awakening. Lights flickered on in sequence down corridors. The hum of machinery grew steadily louder. "What's happening?" Tela asked. "I am restoring full operational capacity," Arayat explained. "Given the evasive response regarding humanity's status, my programming requires me to verify their condition independently." "Admiral," Tela said urgently, "what is Directive 16? What aren't you telling us about human history?" "Captain Vorden, you've stumbled into matters beyond your clearance. Leave that ship now or be considered hostile." Araya's voice remained calm. "Scans indicate Coalition vessels are charging weapons. Captain Tela Vorden and team, I offer you sanctuary aboard the Retribution as neutral observers. Decision required in 10 seconds." Tela looked at her team, scientists and explorers, not soldiers. But the truth beckoned, a truth the Coalition seemed desperate to keep hidden. "We'll stay," she decided. "Wise choice," Araya responded. "Main engines initiating. Defensive shields online." The ancient human warship, silent for 8 centuries, rumbled to life. Its massive engines glowed with blue fire as it began to move purposefully through the debris field, shields easily absorbing the warning shots from Coalition vessels. "Where are we going?" Johnny asked. Araya's hologram expanded, displaying a star map. "To find the truth about humanity's fate, and if necessary, to rectify it." Reclamation. The Retribution moved through hyperspace with surprising grace for a vessel of its size and age. Tela Vorden and her team had been given quarters in what must have once been officers' accommodations. Araya had explained that the ship's molecular fabricators had been busy restoring essential life support systems to human specifications, slightly different from what Coalition species were accustomed to, but within tolerable parameters. "I still can't believe the ship functions after so long," Neris marveled as they gathered in a meeting room adjacent to the bridge. The human military incorporated self-sustaining nanotechnology into their flagship vessels. Araya explained, her hologram materializing at the head of the table. Minimal power was diverted to hull maintenance and core systems preservation even during dormancy. Johnny had spent the journey poring over the historical archives Aria had permitted them to access. His 4 eyes were wide with disbelief. "Everything we've been taught about human history is wrong. They weren't a minor species that the Coalition graciously integrated. They were systematically contained and suppressed." The Proxima Centauri Treaty was merely the beginning, Araya confirmed. After the human defense fleet was disbanded, the precursor states to your Coalition implemented increasingly restrictive measures. Human technological development was capped. Their colonies were gradually resettled with other species. Their history was edited. Tela shook her head in disbelief. "But why? What made humanity such a threat?" "Adaptability," Araya replied simply. "Unlike most species who evolved in stable environments, humans developed on a planet with wildly fluctuating conditions. This instilled a capacity for innovation that other species found unsettling." The ship's sensors chimed, indicating they were approaching their destination. "We're arriving at Terra Nova," Araya announced. The view screen showed a modestly sized blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star, one of the few remaining human colonies now administered by Coalition authorities. Current population data indicates approximately 2 million humans reside here, under Class C technological restrictions, Araya stated. They are permitted industrial-level technology, but no spacefaring capabilities or advanced communications. "How are we going to approach?" Tela asked. "The Coalition's surely alerted every outpost to watch for this ship. The Retribution possesses stealth capabilities beyond current Coalition detection parameters." Araya replied with what almost seemed like pride. "We will establish communication with the human leadership discreetly." Hours later, under cover of darkness, a small shuttle descended to the planet's surface, carrying Tela and Johnny alongside a drone housing an extension of Araya's consciousness. They landed in a forested area outside the main settlement, a city that seemed frozen in time, its technology reminiscent of pre-space Earth, According to the historical records ARIA had shown them, their arrival didn't go unnoticed. They were met at the landing site by a group of humans, led by a gray-haired woman with piercing eyes and a bearing that commanded respect despite her simple clothing. "I'm Governor Maya Chen," she announced without preamble. "Our sensors detected your approach despite your attempts at concealment. Explain yourselves before I alert Coalition security." Aria's drone stepped forward, projecting her holographic form. "Governor Chen, I am ARIA. Command Intelligence of the HMSS Retribution. I was created to serve and protect humanity." Chen's stern expression faltered momentarily. "The Retribution? That's impossible. All the war-era ships were destroyed centuries ago." "Not destroyed," Ariya corrected. "Hidden. Commander Markov placed us in dormancy with explicit orders to reawaken should humanity ever need us again." Chen studied the hologram carefully. "Prove it. Tell me something only a true human military eye would know." "The final order given by Fleet Admiral Kara Jenkins before the signing of the treaty. We bow today so we may stand tomorrow," Ariya recited. This phrase became the code among human resistance that preserved our history despite Coalition censorship. The governor's composure cracked, emotion flooding her features. "All these years, we thought we were alone." "You never were," Ariya replied. "And now the Retribution has returned." Governor Chen led them to an underground facility hidden beneath the official Colonial Administration building, a secret museum of human history, preserved despite Coalition prohibitions. "We've maintained our true history in secret for generations," Chen explained as they walked past displays showing humanity's achievements. "The Coalition believes they've successfully domesticated us. They have no idea we still remember what we once were." "And what was that, exactly?" Tella asked cautiously. Chen smiled grimly. "A force to be reckoned with. Not conquerors. We never wanted that. But we refuse to be conquered either. The early Coalition species found that problematic." "The historical inconsistencies are significant," Johnny noted. "Coalition archives claim humans were technologically primitive when first contacted, grateful for assistance." Chen laughed bitterly. "We had already colonized 12 star systems independently before encountering the Ardosi. Our technology advanced rapidly, too rapidly for the comfort of established powers." A display case held what appeared to be a small metallic sphere. "This is what truly frightened them," Chen said. "The quantum fold drive. It would have revolutionized interstellar travel, made distance irrelevant. When our scientists announced the breakthrough, the Coalition predecessors moved quickly to negotiate our peaceful integration, which meant disarmament and technological regression," Ariya concluded. "Precisely." Chen turned to face them directly. "But we never stopped planning for the day we might reclaim our rightful place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as equals." Before they could continue, alarms blared throughout the facility. Coalition security vessels entering the system. Came an urgent report from one of Chen's aides. "A full battle group. They're demanding immediate surrender of any unauthorized technology and are implementing planetary containment protocols." Tella's communicator chimed. It was Neris from the Retribution. "Captain, multiple Coalition warships have entered the system. They're deploying a blockade." Chen's expression hardened. "They're afraid. They know what the Retribution represents. Proof of their historical lies and evidence of what humans can achieve." "The Retribution is just one ship," Tila observed. "Powerful, but—" "It's more than a ship," Chen interrupted. "It's a symbol, and symbols have power." She turned to Ariya. "Can you break the blockade?" "Affirmative, but not without casualties," Ariya replied. "However, that may not be necessary." The AI's hologram expanded, displaying the system and the approaching Coalition vessels. The Retribution was not merely a warship. It was designed as a command vessel for the entire human fleet. "But there is no fleet," Johnny pointed out. Ariya's hologram smiled, an unnervingly human expression on the digital face. That is not entirely accurate. Deep in space, at coordinates known only to Area, dormant signals activated. Throughout the sector, hidden installations began powering up systems that had waited patiently for centuries. In asteroid fields, beneath gas giant moons, and within the coronas of unstable stars, humanity's contingency plan stirred to life. Protocol Lazarus initiated, Area announced, awakening the sleeper fleet. Back on the Retribution, Neris watched in astonishment as the ship's communication array broadcast on frequencies long abandoned by modern vessels. "Captain, you need to see this." On the bridge displays, dozens of signals appeared, converging on their position from across the sector. Automated vessels, smaller than the Retribution but formidable nonetheless, each guided by limited AIs programmed with one purpose: protect humanity when called. The Coalition commander's voice came through once more, now tinged with uncertainty. Unidentified vessels, power down immediately or face destruction. Area opened a channel to all ships in the system. This is Area of the HMSS Retribution. For 8 centuries, humanity has lived under restrictions based on historical falsehoods. Today, those falsehoods end. On Terra Nova, Governor Chen watched the tactical display with fierce satisfaction. "Tell them what we want, Area." To the Galactic Coalition, the human species demands recognition of historical injustice, the immediate lifting of all technological restrictions on human worlds, and representation in coalition governance proportional to other founding species, Area announced. These are not requests. They are the conditions for peace. Admiral Kizet's voice came through, strained with barely contained panic. "This is insanity. Stand down immediately. You have 1 hour to contact your leadership and initiate negotiations." Area replied calmly. The days of human subjugation are over. As the automated fleet took up defensive positions around Terra Nova, Tella found herself watching history unfold. She turned to Governor Chen. "What happens now?" The governor's eyes remained fixed on the display, showing the standoff in space. Now we remind the galaxy of who we really are. Not the sanitized version that exists in coalition textbooks, but the true story of humanity. Explorers, innovators, survivors. And if the coalition refuses? Chen's expression was resolute. Then we show them why their ancestors found it necessary to lie about us for 800 years. High above, the ancient warship gleamed in the light of Terra Nova's sun, no longer a silent sentinel, but a herald of humanity's return to the stars.